to record. Okay, so today we will do the last part of our class. It's regarding Java secure coding. Okay, and can you also see this website? Right now, it's called From Oracle Secure Coding Guidelines for Java Standard Edition. So you can also see that, is it? So this is the official one, yeah, from Java, okay, official, from Oracle, the official one. So it gives you a number of rules, but we can only like, right now, if you read on your own, not everyone or every rule of here you will be able to understand, because quite a lot of materials are more advanced Java materials, as well as some professional like Java developers area, okay, but some of the discussions we can understand. But for this Oracle one, it's mostly give you the description, okay, not with an example. So sometimes maybe it's hard to understand. But in the future, if you work as a software developer or security engineer for software, maybe you will need to refer to this Oracle's secure coding guidelines quite often, okay. So over here, it's just mostly just description. So it's not that easy to understand. And there is another expert organization take care also of the secure coding. It's not for Java. If you take a look here, it also has C, Android, C++, Java. And this organization, it's called Software Engineering Institute from Carnegie Mellon University. And over here regarding Java, it has the rules, and it's, if you read both websites, you will find there are some similarities, okay. And over here to give you a detailed description about all of the rules, okay. And some of them, like input validation, like this, the first one, rule 00, that's mostly if you have some Windows application or web application or mobile application. So that's regarding that kind of input validation, okay. It's used also quite a lot. And declaration initialization, that's an expression numeric character. So that's some of the Java programming languages themselves rules, okay. And we are not, because that's has not a lot of focus with our class material. So we will start with rule 05. And there are a lot, okay. So I will just give you kind of some idea about these rules. And we cannot go over all of them, but in winter break, if you have time and if you're interested, you can read more about of this, okay. But a lot of same idea right now you cannot understand, like thread. So we haven't learned thread programming and the serialization, and so quite a lot of material we cannot discuss it, but some of that we can understand, okay. So let's take a look. Rule 05. Rule 05 is about object orientation, okay? So Java is OOP. So through this whole semester, we discuss a lot of OOP as an object-oriented program. But whenever we develop applications, okay, using OOP concept, here's some rules maybe you needed to check, okay, when you in the future go to official professional work. So let's take a look at the first one. First one is called OBJ. So it follows, so each rule it also give an abbreviation, is it? So OBJ01 is it dash J, is it? So let's take a look. What does this mean? And basically, a lot of this, if you recall previously, we also kind of mentioned, but we never explicitly said this is related with secure coding, okay? So over here, we focus on secure coding guidelines. So the first one is a limit accessibility of fields. So based on this, so let's take a look at this code. So for this code, so this defines a class, is it called widget? And for this widget class, it only has a single instance called total. And then it has this method as add, remove. Those are mutators, is it? And can any of you see any issue with this class definition based on your knowledge? So this is instance variable. And its type is integer. And it's access, pardon me?
So it should be private, not public?
Yeah, it should be private, is it? Instead of public, is it? That's, yeah, it's, you can do this as public, is it? But that's not what our purpose for class definition for the instance variable. Generally speaking, is that you want to keep it private. That's encapsulation. What we learned is that then you can protect it. Is it you can define what its accessibility is it visibility, is it? Okay, so we kind of identify the issue with this, is it? So that's why over here it says non-compliant code. So this is not a, so if you design like this, then your code doesn't comply with the secure coding rule, is it? With this rule, is it? And this field is just a public primitive field, okay? And then if you want to make it compliant, then you make it as private, is it? As private. So nobody can directly access it. Okay, so this is this case. And then next, let's see. There is another class, is it? So over here, so over here, it's just there is some other class, is it? So public class something, is it? And within it, you also define this. And right now, you don't need to worry about this. This is some data structure called hash map, okay? So anyway, this is also an instance variable. And the issue with this, it's similar, is it? It's also put it as public, is it public? And oh, this is not an instance variable because over here we have static, is it? So it's a class variable. This is a class variable. And it's also set final, so it's also considered as constant, is it? But the issue with this is some data structure, is it? Some collection data structure. So the type of this, so it's reference type. So not the primitive, is it? So this field is what? It's a mutable field. Is it? So you can change it. Is it? You can change it. So that's why, even though it's a static final one, is it? But because this variable, class variable, is mutable, is it? So that's why it's also not compliant if you put it as public, because then external world can modify it. So that's why you better also keep it as private. Okay, so we make it as private, is it? But of course, you may want to get something. You can still have the get method. Is it? So get method is public, is it? So through get method, through basically here the concept is through accessor to have certain accessibility. So that's, so you can still define the get, is it? But this get just get a certain item, not this thing. Okay, not this class variable. Okay, so that's this idea. And then next, let's see, same thing over here. Okay, so here this item, this is also inside some class, is it? So this is some class variable. Is a class variable. And it's what? It's an array. Is it an array? So even though you make it as final, is it make it final, but it can still be modified. Is it because what? Because it's reference. Reference type. Array is reference type. Is it? We know that. So in order to make it comply, you need to make it as private. Okay, so then you can avoid external world to directly access the whole array. Prevent the whole array being directly accessed. Is it? But you can still provide a certain specific item. Is it? Oh, I want to get the first one or second one, third one. Is it? That's fine. You can still make it public. Is it? And you can also let it external world to know how many items in this array. Is it? That depends if you want to expose this information. Is it? If you don't want people know how many items in this array, then even for this one, you can make it as private. Is it? So it completely depends on how your app, how the system you want it to be designed. Okay, so it's in your hand. Okay, so that's the concept regarding this one. And sometimes maybe you say, oh, I may do need to have at least readability, okay? Readability, is it? So it's allowed to read, is it? But not write. This is just like your file, is it? You can make it readable, but not writable, editable by other person, is it, when you share? Is it? So kind of like that concept. So over here, if you do want to let external world to read, is it, the whole array, what can you do? Then you can have clone. Is it? You can make a clone. Then in that case, this reference, so reference itself cannot be modified. Is it? So this one can be modified. Is it the clone? So the idea is here is still. So this is a heap. Is it a heap? And we also have stack. Is it? runtime stack. Is it? So on heap, okay, you have these items. Is it the items? It's because it's an array. Is it? So it have certain memory be allocated associated with it. Is it? But over here you call clone. Is it? So whatever that is on heap, then so this is that data clone created. So it's in another place, is it? So whatever this get method returns, is it? So it returns something, it's here, is it? And that guy will return or will refer to the other copy, is it? But they have the same content, is it? Suppose this is AABB to ZZ something, is it? And then over here, you will also have this. Is it? Then later on, you see, third party can change this, is it, to 0, 0. But this one, the item will not be modified. So we protect it, is it? So it's get protected. Is it? Because that's the goal for OOP, is it? A reference type, okay. So you can, so the one way you can do is if you see, oh, I do want to know what's in it, is it? But you only have the privilege to read. You will not have the privilege to modify it, okay? So that's the idea here. And okay, and what else? And this we don't need to worry. Okay, then let's take a move to the next second rule. Okay, so the second rule, okay, about object orientation, so OBJ02. Over here it says about preserve dependency, superclass and subclass and superclass. Okay, so when we design, okay, so here let's do the first quiz question. So here we said superclass and subclass. Is it in OOP? We said OOP, generally speaking, 3 pillows. Is it the 3 pillow? One, the one we already discussed is encapsulation. Who remembers what's the second one we learned? And what is the third one we learned?
Polymorphism.
Very good. Polymorphism. What is the other one? OOP, the 3 pillows, kind of. Let's check the chat. Polymorphism, yeah, someone already know that. What's the third one? Here you see we said the superclass, subclass. This is regarding
Inheritance.
Yeah, inheritance. Okay, so can you, so this is our first quiz question, okay. So the 3 pillows in OOP, okay, so you can send it to our chat, okay. So here it discusses subclass and superclass, is it? So this sub and super is regarding inheritance, okay. So let's don't forget about this, okay. This is the beginning, at the beginning of the class that we learned. Okay, so let's take a look at this code. So we have a class called account, okay, and it just has a single instance variable called balance. Okay, it's a private. And then over here, we have a withdraw method. Okay, and what the withdraw method does is, okay, to take off some money, as it take off some money. Okay, and then let's see. Over here, we have a subclass. Is it? So bank account, it is a subclass of superclass account, is it? And it doesn't have any instance variable, is it? And what it does, it override the withdraw method. Is it override withdraw method? And it's override withdraw method, but over here, if you take a look as over here, we have another method, we call it security check. Because this is bank account, is it? Bank account, whenever you do withdraw, if you go to bank, you need to show your ID, is it? You need to have some security check, is it? So over here, this withdraw, the very first thing is you do security check. And if you didn't meet, it won't let you do withdraw unless you pass the security check, is it? So when you design a website, is it, backend, you also need to do some of the security check, is it? So this is kind of part of it. Okay, and so this is for subclass, okay? So far, you may say, oh, there is no issue. It sounds good, okay? Then let's see. Over here, it says in main, so we create a bank account, is it? And I just do withdraw, is it? And of course, when you do this withdraw, the security check will be enforced, is it? So it will enforce a security check, is it? So nothing wrong here, okay? Seems fine. Okay, then next, let's see. And then later on, okay, for this account class. So maybe, so here, okay, account is superclass of that bank account. Is it? So this is a superclass. Okay, maybe this superclass was developed, suppose superclass from Google. Okay, and the bank account, suppose this is from US bank. Is it? Okay, Google provides some general account class, is it? And later on, Google said, okay, I want to add a method called overdraft. Okay, so this is updated version. That's very common. Is it very common? Okay, and then this is Bank of America IT department. This is a US bank IT. This is Google IT. Okay, Google said, okay, I added this man. And the Bank of America, probably they didn't realize that Google already updated their account class, is it? Okay, so Bank of America, US bank just say, oh, I won't do anything. Then I will keep using account. And sounds like nothing is wrong, okay? And then let's see over here. Is it okay? Then the driver. Is it the driver created account? Okay, it's a bank account. It does withdraw. Is it? Withdraw is okay. It's still enforce security check. Is it? Because this, okay, so let's see. Here is a very good question. Let's go back, take a look. The code again. Okay, so account class, is it has a method of withdraw, okay. This withdraw method. Withdraw. And then over here, I have this bank account. Is it bank account override that withdraw? Override it, is it? But it needs security check. Security check, is it? And now what the account class does is it add a method called overdraft. Is it? I forgot the method name. So anyway, it's a new method. Some new method. Is it? Some new method. That new method, but bank account didn't override this new method. So it automatically also inherited this new method. Is it this new method? And then, okay, so that's a diagram, okay. Let's see. Oh, we add a new method called overdraft, is it? And the bank account didn't, is it? Okay, so now let's see. Okay, so over here, the account, is it? Account is you initiate as bank account, is it? As bank account. So here, it called the withdraw method, is it? Let's see. This withdraw, so that withdraw, here we have two withdraw. We have a withdraw from account. We have another withdraw from bank account. So my question, so this is our second quiz question. So in main, is it? We call that withdraw. So this withdraw is whose withdraw it is? Anyone knows the answer? Whose withdraw it is?
Bank account.
Yeah. So this withdraw is bank accounts. Okay, so you can write it. It's bank account, is it? Let's go back to take a look here. If you take a look, because what? Because this account you create, even though the type is account, but you create with what? With bank account. So the account type basically is what? Is bank account. Is it bank? This is what we learned before. It's called what? Who remembers the name? What do we call this? And then it called that withdraw method. Who remember what this concept is called? Yeah, very good. Someone still remember. Is it? It's called dynamic binding. Is it? It's at runtime, it knows it will be the bank account. Is it? But it still can call overdraft. Is it? That's legal. Is it? That's legal. But here, did you see the problem? Then security check is not performed. So you expose security issue. Is it? So this is not a good solution. This is non-compliant. So in order to do that, what you should do? You should also override the overdraft method. Is it? And you just won't allow that to be happen. You just say throw illegal access exception. Is it? Then you won't allow it to do. Okay, so that's the way. So this just shows when you do inheritance design, be careful. Okay, be careful. Okay, that's the third one. Oh, that's the second rule. Third rule, it's called prevent heap pollution. Okay, heap pollution. So the name sounds fancy. Okay, so let's take a look. What does this mean? And over here, if you take a look at this line of code, is it? Did you see any issue with what we already learned? Basically, list is supposed to be what? Supposed to be generic, is it? But this is still okay. This is not generic. Is it because it didn't specify the type? Is it? This is called raw type. Okay, raw type is before JDK 5.0. Is it? Before 5.0. So it's some legacy code, you may still see this. Is it because now we all have that generic? Is it? So in the library, it's something like this. Is it? And so but it's still working right now. Okay, like this. So you define list. So, and the third question today, and if you recall regarding collection, is list a class or interface? What is it? List. Who still remembers?
Interface.
Very good. Okay, list is not a class, it's an interface. Okay, so an interface and what? You initiate with a array list. That's fine. Is it? Array list is what? Array list is concrete class. And also remember, whenever you use new, okay, new can only be applied with concrete class. Okay, you cannot do new list. Okay, so anyway, that's a list. And then you said, okay, you assign that to another one. This variable ls, it's a string list. Is it? And when you write it in Java, it says it will only give you a warning, unchecked warning. Okay, it's still let you go compile. Okay, but it will cause issue. Okay, so let's take a look over here. Over here, so this is a class. And within this class, I have a method. Is it a class method called add list? And this is raw list. Is it? And you can, this is the object. The type is, so you add it to the list. So that's fine. Is it? That's fine. Okay, then in main, is it? In main over here, this list is a string one. Is it initiate with as a string array list? Okay, and then you said I'm going to add 42 because this add takes whatever object is. It should work, is it? So it will kind of let you pass here, is it? So this will go through, no problem. Okay, but when you come here, it says it will throw class cast exception. Why? Because the list is string and you want to get an integer. That's, so this kind of issue, we call it a heap pollution. Okay, heap pollution. Okay, so that's, it's said because what? The heap pollution, is it because parameterized type information is discarded before execution? Because over here, it's fine, is it? Yeah, nothing looks wrong, is it? But when you run to a certain point in your run time, is it? Then it will throw an exception. Okay, so this is, so that's not what we recommend, but some legacy code, you may still see this kind of issue, okay? So the way to solve this issue is you make it a specific type. That's it. Then you won't have any issue. Okay, you won't have any issue. And over here, so this is a string. This is string. So all match. Is this so? This is fine. And so that's one way you can make it complying. Okay, another way to make it comply if it's legacy code is you can do something like this. So here is you have string, and you can create another string list. We call it checked list. And you do something like that. You call it collection.add checked list. You call this class method, okay? Then you said, okay, I'm going to use a string, okay? Then this will be fine, okay? So you will you will bypass that issue, okay? And then let's see, the other way over here, let's see, yeah. Here it's still said, okay, so you may say, oh, I can add some annotation called unchecked, is it? So here it says unchecked warning, is it? And it's a raw type and an object. But for this method, okay, this method, it's this parameter type is generic. We already learned it, is it? Okay, and regarding this method, and this is also the concept we already learned, is it? So the next quiz question, so the fourth one. Quiz question, what is this kind of method? It's a regular method that we have learned, or this is called the generic method. So who still remember what is this? Based on its syntax. So this is what? It's not a regular one we learned. This is a generic method. Is it? Because the parameter is generic type, and over here we also have that generic type. Is it? So this print method is a generic method, okay? And over here, you're going to check the type. This is the parameter type. You want to see, okay, if it's some instance of integer or if it's some instance of double. Is it? If it is not, then you said, I cannot print. Otherwise, you will allow it to call this method. Okay, and then you can print it. That's what this method does, okay? Okay, and then in main, is it? And then in main, what over here, you have some double, some integer, is it? And you call this print number method, is it? But over here, so even though over here, you does the check, is it? Even though this method is generic, but because within this method, you still call this, is it? And when you call this method, over here, you does check. You check the type of parameter. It sounds like you don't have the heap pollution issue, is it? But for this specific method, is it? You call add to list, but add to list, it's still raw type. It's not generic. And then you just randomly add this integer. Is it? So for this 42, it didn't go through this check. Is it? And within the method itself, it looks fine. Is it? Looks fine. But when you run this program, at runtime, it will cause issue, okay? So that's why we said this is not compliant, okay? So the way to avoid that is you also make this add to list method also a generic method, is it? And then in this case, you check the type, is it? Then we can avoid that heap pollution issue, okay? Okay, so that's regarding that. Oh, sorry, I think I need to stop sharing. So I'm already kind